Hello everyone from Tony the Skarredghost. Today I'm super excited to be here with Suzanne Borders, the CEO and co-founder of BadVR. Hello Suzanne.
Hi, how are you doing?
Well, first of all, as always, apart from thanking you for being here with me, present yourself to my readers. So who you are and what you do in your life.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. So like you said, I'm the CEO and co-founder of BadVR. And what does BadVR do? We take really large, complex data sets and port them into virtual and augmented reality to help people find insights faster and to present data in a more intuitive and easy to use format.
When do you enter VR? Well, on what occasion and what fascinated you about this technology?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I have a very good answer. So when I was a kid, I actually was born in California, but my father was going to medical school, and when he graduated, I was moved to Kansas City, which is in the middle of the country. And no offense to anyone who's listening from Kansas City, it's kind of a smaller town, and it's not as big as in San Diego where I was living. So I was kind of alienated culturally there. I got made fun of a lot. I didn't fit in. So I was obsessed with Star Trek. And I would watch Star Trek episodes, The Next Generation, over and over. And they had a holodeck in that show. And I just thought to myself when I was a kid, I want one of those because then I can step inside the holodeck and go back to California. I can leave Kansas City and go wherever in the world that I wanted to go to escape all of the bullying and the people that would make fun of me. So I had this fascination with the concept of a holodeck. And as I grew up, that never sort of left me. And when virtual reality became a thing with Oculus, I just saw this opportunity to actually build my own holodeck. And so I've always had this fascination with like virtual worlds and being able to go someplace besides the reality or go someplace beyond where you actually are. So that's really what sort of piqued my interest in it. And when, the Oculus first came out, I was very interested in the technology. I had one of the first HoloLenses in all of Los Angeles. But at the time in my personal life, I wasn't ready to start a business in there. And I also felt, or in that space, I also felt that the market wasn't quite ready. So I didn't really go for it, but I've always been interested in it. I've always had my eye on that. It's something that is a life goal for me. So I'm very thankful that I'm now able to finally do that as an actual business and to be an actual CEO and have a product and all of that stuff.
That's amazing. So you are the boss now at BadVR. So you are an evil boss if you have a BadVR. So you just introduced what BadVR is, but just detail it. So what do you do exactly and what you are good at?
Yeah, so the approach that we take at BadVR is very different than a lot of people assume, right? So you think, okay, data visualization, you think AR and VR, so you immediately assume that the product is basically multidimensional charts because that's the way that we now present data, that's the way we think of data, but we are trying to completely, fundamentally redo that. So none of the products at BadVR have charts. We are against charts and graphs. I feel that they are a necessary compromise when you have a two-dimensional screen because you only have so much space and you have to sort of condense data down into a displayable format. But when you have virtual and augmented reality, you have a limitless amount of digital space in which to paint data and display data. So you don't need to have these sort of condensed summary views of the data. You can actually see your real data set. And so that's where our tagline comes in, step inside. Literally with our product, you can step inside your actual data. Not a chart of your data, not a summary, not a dashboard. You actually step into the real data set. And what that means is that we have different data environments. So environments that are driven by your data, that present your data in a way that's easy for you to understand that you can sort of step inside and explore. And obviously you still need standardized ways to display data in the way that, a pie chart is always going to look like a pie chart. It's a standard way to display certain types of data. We are doing that same thing, but in the way of, the way that we do it is data environments, right? So we have 4 standardized data environments. that depending upon the type of data, the schema, the structure, the attributes, we recommend one of these 4 environments to put your data into and paint it on top of the structure of that environment, if that makes sense. So that's sort of the approach that we take, and that's what we're working on. Basically building new standards for visualizing immersive data that are appropriate for that platform. So we're not trying to take 2-dimensional sort of standards and shoehorn them into 3D or to virtual immersive reality, because I feel like that's really gimmicky and that's not really a value add. We are doing that hard work of like just fundamentally rethinking what data visualization will be in the future, and then, you know, building those new standards and patenting them so that other people can't steal them. That's what we're going for.
And so you're talking about visualization, data visualization environment, new kind of data visualization. Can you make us some examples? So can you explain that better, or take an example of something that you already done, for instance?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I won't go with a geospatial example because that's very obvious. Like any sort of geospatial data, it's easy. You put it onto a map, you step inside the map. I'll go with an example of more abstract data. So one of the environments that we have is very good for visualizing machine learning models. And an example is we actually have a customer that has a machine learning model that ported their data in there. And the reason that they did that is it's several reasons. One, when people think of machine learning, they don't really know, like they have a concept of what it is, but you can't see it. It's really difficult to see a machine learning model. This gives people the opportunity to see it, to give a visual image to it, and it also gives them the opportunity to monitor it and to view it in real time and see patterns in the output of the machine learning model that were not possible if you were just looking at it on a 2-dimensional screen. So the way that this works is you sort of step inside what we call a data stadium. So it's like the presentation of the data is the same as if you were in an actual sports arena, and everything's sort of presented in that manner. You have scoreboards on either side. You're able to drill down to the individual seat or the section or the row and expand upon that. And you're also able to apply real-time filtering using we have a custom controller, also patent pending, that we use to do that. So it's the ability to view all of these individual data points, millions or billions of them, presented in a manner that makes sense to you, organized like a stadium is organized, and the ability to drill down to the individual data point within that and filter it using real-time filtering. So I guess that's an example.
Yeah. And what are your typical customers?
Our typical customers that we're focused on right now are in several industries. Telecom is one of them, and that's really great for our network visualization that we call C-Signal, which people have heard a lot about because we got a grant from Magic Leap for that. We're also focused on e-commerce. We have the really great solutions for that particular industry as well. And financial visualizations, obviously, the finance industry really has a great love for data visualization. So, and smart city applications, which is great for obviously geospatial data and visualizing that in the smart city applications. So those are our sort of core industries that we're focused on right now. And we're really going for larger companies, specifically larger legacy companies that have a ton of data, but that may not have that sort of technology legacy to be able to utilize it as well as they could. It's not a company like Google, obviously. They're a tech company. They're really familiar with data visualization, data analytics. They wouldn't, I'm sure they'd get value from our product, but the most immediate value are these companies like, a Unilever, Coca-Cola, that are older, more legacy. They have a ton of data, but a lot of people there aren't as familiar with how to utilize it, or they're not, super technical and savvy. That's really who we're focusing on, companies like that within those industries.
Here now the question is, but why VR? So why can't I just see something, I don't know, in 3D on my PC? In your opinion, what is the added value of virtual or augmented reality for data visualization?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different benefits. I think the first one is scale, right? When you have a 2-dimensional screen like the one I'm looking at now, you only have so many pixels, and it's limited to a point in space in front of you. So by necessity sort of have to abstract away from the core data. You have to summarize it. And every time you do that, you're only looking at it from one particular vantage point, right? So regardless of how you summarize it, it's only sort of one single view down into that data set. But with virtual reality or augmented reality, you can see the entire thing. And the reason you can do that is the scale. It presents an opportunity to show you much more data within a single view and within a single environment. And then you have this concept of immersion, right? Which is where you can actually be inside the data and not just look at the data, but have it be in front of you, behind you, above you, beside you, and use all of that sort of spatial awareness that the user has to represent and communicate points of the data. And this also makes analyzing the data move much faster for the human, because you're used to inputting three-dimensional data and analyzing three-dimensional data. The process of working with three-dimensional data is much easier for a human and increases recall. It lowers the cognitive load. It lets you essentially analyze faster and get better insights. And then of course it's great in the sense of it's more engaging and it's more intuitive. So if you put on a headset, you don't need to learn Python. You don't need to set up a complicated dashboard. It's completely intuitive in the way that the data is presented to you, and it becomes data analysis becomes experiential, right? So you can actually perform, bodily movements and enter into this new world. And that is the process of analysis, instead of just looking at a screen and typing and really struggling with that. So I think that anytime you have data that's presented three-dimensionally or multidimensionally, not three-dimensional, multidimensionally, you're going to have a lot of different benefits, all of which I just touched on. So.
What do you think that you of BadVR are very good at? In the sense, there are other companies like Virtualitics that work in VR data visualization. So what do you think that your I don't know the term. What you're really special at?
Yeah. I think the word you're looking for is differentiator. Just FYI. Yeah, we take a completely different approach to our product. And I think I sort of touched on this a little earlier in the conversation, but Virtualitics, definitely a competitor of ours, and I won't be too aggressive. Sometimes I can be very competitive, but their product is academic. It's by scientists, it's for scientists. So they have followed the traditional sort of established route of visualizing data, using charts, using graphs, because that's, when you have an academic background, you're really embedded in the current way of thinking, right? You're going to do it the way that it's always been done, the standard and, whatever. And that's what they excel at. They're really, really good at charts and graphs. So they make multidimensional charts and graphs. However, at BadVR, we're a team of, obviously very smart engineers, but also artists. So we're going past what is existing today for data visualization and trying to come up with the data visualization platform of tomorrow. So we're really fundamentally redoing it. And none of our products have charts and graphs. We are moving past the standard that we have today for 2D and trying to reimagine what that new immersive standard will be for tomorrow. So I just think, for us, we really excel in product strategy. We really excel at innovation. We really excel at, a new way of thinking. And obviously, I believe we add more value to the end user by building products for immersive environments, by people who are really, passionate about making products accessible to everybody. So Virtualitics, they make great products for academics and scientists. We're making the data visualization products for everybody else. Is a good way of thinking about it.
That's great. Why that name BadVR? You mentioned that sometimes it is a problem with investors and such. So who is the bad person there?
Well, okay, so BadVR, there's several different things. One of it is that it's an acronym, bring all your data. So that's one of the sort of stories of BadVR. The other one is it really captures our spirit, right? As a team of being rebellious, of being artistic, of being free thinking. We're really badass. I have
a lot of tattoos. Oh, I missed the one on the hands, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was a part of a hacker collective So
Wow.
it's FTW. So it was, the hacker collective was called Pirate-esque for the win. So I got, anyways. So it's I think a way of capturing, our spirit as a team and our culture. And I think that it also, it's one of those names that sticks in your head. You hear bad VR, it doesn't fit what you think it should be. It should be good VR. So, you question, well, why is it bad VR? Now I want to talk to these people. Now I want to know the story. So it's been a really great sort of conversation starter. It's gotten a lot of attention. It brings a lot of people to us, especially people who maybe wouldn't have been interested in a really traditional, dry, like, immersive technologies. We get a lot of free thinkers. We get a lot of artists. And because of that, we've ended up with a lot of advocates in really high places within really large organizations. We've had some customers that, like, they're actual, like, we're talking about global brands, like multinational corporations. Their CEO loves the name, will come to our office, this tiny little office in a co-working space, and sit down and try our product and buy it. And I feel like one of the things that draws them in is the name. So as much as I'm like, I do get sort of flack for it from investors sometimes, or from some people, I really do feel that the customers love it, and it's something that helps make us memorable. So I don't know. I'm a big fan. Obviously, I came up with it. It's also, we have a 5-letter URL. We actually own BadVR.com. So that's another positive.
Well, I love it as well. I think that's innovative. It represents also you. I'm not meaning that you're bad, but since you have a lot of these tattoos, etc., it fits you. So
I'm bad at that way.
Yeah, but don't say this in this interview. People shouldn't know until they meet you, and you will conquer them.
Thank you.
I say that on Twitter, you always use your Magic Leap device. So why are you so big advocate for Magic Leap?
Yeah, so I did mention this. I was one of the first people in Los Angeles to have a HoloLens 1. And wow. I got that, and I remember taking it out of the box, and I loved the form factor. I loved the little pods that they came in. But I put it on, and it had this really limited field of view, and all of the gestures were like really, the bloom thing, or the like this thing. I was just like, this is not doing it for me from usability, right? And Microsoft has always been a little bit of one, a company that usability has been kind of a challenge for them. UX is not what they're really good at. So I was like, okay. And so I ended up selling the HoloLens, and I liked it, but I was like, it's not quite there yet. Then I remember with Magic Leap, it came out, and I was also one of the first people to get a Magic Leap device, but I was reading all this press of like, oh, it's going to suck, it's not very good, the expectation, whatever. I took it out of the box, and I put it on, and had this huge field of view, and I could go up and like just touch a hologram. I didn't have to do this thing or that thing. I could just touch it. And I was just like, this is amazing. This is what I was hoping for when I first tried the HoloLens. And I also loved how their sort of the experiences that they shipped with were really artistic. They weren't like, oh, shoot something that comes through the wall. Like, I don't have a problem with shooting, but it's just, it's like shooter games are so boring to me. There's so many of them. But this device, the Magic Leap, sorry, I keep getting emails, apologies. This Magic Leap, it came with like art. It came with Tonandi. It came with these like really cool abstract experiences. So I don't know, like it really just captured my heart. And I, ended up, the people from Magic Leap, once I had my device, they were reaching out to me, like actual people who worked at the company, helping me figure out how to use it, how to build for it, how to, play with the device, how to make it work. And I just really felt connected to the people working on this, working on the Magic Leap. And culturally, from an artistic standpoint, I really felt like they had captured the artistic essence of immersive technology, as opposed to, Microsoft, which I just sort of felt like, oh, it's a shooter game, and, here's the utility. I didn't feel like they had the artist heart. And so I guess that's what I love most, long story short, in my long rambling answer, is that Magic Leap has an artistic side to it, the company, the product, the brand, that I really connect with. I love the people who make it, and I really think it's a great product. So that's why I'm always talking about it. That's why I'm always wearing it. Yeah.
And now that the HoloLens show will come out, I guess you'll be the first one in Los Angeles getting that too. And now I want to know your impressions as soon as you will try it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right now, our team is focused on getting a Quest so we can do a teardown. I was actually up late last night looking on eBay for early releases because I heard that I heard that Walmart accidentally shipped some out. So I was like, let me see if somebody who received it has put it up for sale so I can buy it so I can do a teardown. But yeah, fingers crossed that, in particular for HoloLens 2, that we're one of the first ones to get it. We'll definitely share my thoughts and opinions on it.
I really can't wait to read it. But talking about Magic Leap, so I know that you won one of the dev grants.
Yes.
What is the project? Because I tried to apply, I haven't won, so I'm a bit envious. So what is something that has won those grants?
Yeah. So what we applied with I know that a lot of people applied with like the grander vision of their company. What we did is we took one of our data environments. If you remember back to when I was describing, we have these standard environments. So we took just one of those, which was networking, visualizing cell signal, Wi-Fi signal, all of that sort of stuff. And we said, look, we'd like to build this specifically for Magic Leap. And that's what we received the grant for. And I think it also had to do with we built a version of it at a hackathon back in November, a Magic Leap AT&T hackathon. And we called it C-Signal just because we needed a name for the environment, we needed a name for the project, and it ended up getting a lot of attention on Twitter. And we had Roni publicly commenting about it in some of his speeches or some of his public presentations. So I think that had something to do with it, like seeing the public's reaction to that and seeing like, hey, a lot of people are interested in this. So basically we just applied for that. That's specifically what we've received the grant for. And C-Signal, the networking environment, which you can put on a headset and see the visualization of your Wi-Fi signals, Bluetooth signals, and cellular phone coverage signal will be coming out this summer in Magic Leap World. Anyone will be able to download it and visualize data from their phone or their networks. So that's exciting. And we'll have an early version ready at Augmented World Expo at the end of this month for people to try.
Okay, very cool. I really compliments for that because since a cool project and it was a great opportunity to win the dev grant, so keep us updated about it.
Will do.
Changing topic completely, there is a lot of debate, and you are also part of this debate about women in VR and XR. Yeah. I guess that you're a woman, and you always talk about the problems that you have had because of this. When I talk about women in VR, my blog interviewed like three women in VR, and they told me that usually the problem is not in how maybe the community, the people working with you perceive you, but more on the business side when they try to get funds. So do you agree with that? Yes, no, why? What are the difficulties that you find because you're a woman?
Yeah, so I actually do agree with that. I have not had a ton of negative experiences with people in particular in AR and VR. I feel I definitely had some problems in other tech areas, but not AR and VR. I have been very welcomed. The men and women and everything in every gender in between have been very welcoming to me and very supportive. Where I've had problems within the AR VR community, I feel like is getting funded and being, I feel like people really sometimes don't want to fund female-led companies because there's this, sort of uncertainty of like, oh, well, will the woman go and have a kid and will her attention be split between running the company and having children or, managing a family? I feel like, it's never explicitly stated that way. No one says it like that, but I feel like there's this underlying sort of uncertainty about funding women that is challenging. And then the other side of that is, you have some funds that are specifically for women, but those funds only give money to companies led by women that do feminine things. So they invest in like companies that make tampons, or they invest in, you know, tech companies that provide childcare solutions or makeup brands, you know, and to me that's equally as sexist as a man should, you know, you should make a makeup company. It's like, well, if you're going to fund women, why only fund women that adhere to traditional stereotypes? Then you're not doing anything for this community that, you know, is revolutionary or really super helpful. And I don't want to I mean, I'm very glad that there are funds dedicated to helping women in traditionally feminine industries. Like, that's great. I don't in any way want to like sort of discourage that, but it is challenging because I'm a woman, but I'm not traditionally super feminine in the sense of like, you know, I don't want to own a company. I don't want to own a fashion company. I don't really care about interior design or like makeup. And so I go and I pitch other women and they're just like, oh, well, you know, it's just not really in our wheelhouse. It's data isn't really super feminine. And it's just really frustrating, you know? So I've actually had more support in terms of funding from men and funds that are very masculine. And, you know, I think that it's a complicated topic. It's not, there's no super one answer. But, you know, I think that in general, the biggest challenge in AR and VR in particular is just getting people to buy into the vision of AR and VR, because there's this negative connotation around VR in particular because of the whole thing that happened. The industry sort of collapsed there for a while. So you have that challenge, and then you have the challenge of being a female founder, and everybody is just sort of like skeptical about you. And for me, I don't fit in with the, you know, the very feminine women. I don't fit in with the super masculine men. So it's just, I'm sort of like in this gray zone of like, hey, I'm a girl, and I'm happy to be a girl, and I love being a girl. I wouldn't change that, but I'm not really feminine, and my business isn't feminine. So like, you know, nobody just knows where to put me. They're just like, you don't go in any box. And so that's challenging. And I think that it kind of weirds people out sometimes, but it hasn't prevented me from succeeding. And we've still been funded from some amazing people that do believe in me. So I think that's good. I'm happy with that.
Well, maybe when you will become rich because of your startup, you can create a fund for girls like you or men like you that don't fit in boxes. Yes. I will help you with that.
Awesome. I'm so about that. I want to fund any person who doesn't fit in, because it's the weird visionaries, the people who do their own things, I think, that contribute the most to society. So I'm all right there with you. It doesn't have to just be women, men, women, whatever, anyone who doesn't fit in. I want to know you. I want to fund you. When I have the money to fund you, I want to be involved in that. So you got to show yourself a deal. We'll definitely do that.
Thanks. In your opinion, how can we fix this problem with women don't getting funded by VCs or such? What can be a solution?
I mean, I think one of the solutions is just really throwing away gender roles and like the idea that women have to, you know, found a business that's feminine or solve a problem that's feminine. I think that if we just look at men and women as people and we look at them based upon their own merits and what they're adding to the world and what problems they're solving, regardless of like gender, I think that that's going to be, as a society, it will help move us forward dramatically. Speaking to specifically women, I really think a lot of the solution, being able to, you know, just look and connect with each other. I'm not tied to gender. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, like if you're a man and if you see a woman who's really smart, don't treat her like a woman who's really smart. Treat her like a person who's really smart. Mentor her in the same way you'd mentor a man, you know, and if you're a woman, don't look at your, you know, male colleagues as like the other. You know, look at them like, you know, a person, the same way that you're the female friend, it can be a male friend. And if we all just sort of look at each other in this way, where we're judging each other on our merits and not our gender, and not trying to push people into roles, I think it will help a lot with women being considered for funding, with women being able to achieve funding, because then it's not going to become this question of like, oh, well, she's a woman, now it's different, now we have this whole different set of rules for her. You know, we all should have the same rules. And I think that, if we can have some funds that are specifically focused on helping, women that want to get into this industry, that come from maybe disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds, I think that's more differentiator than gender. So I think that we really should focus on people that come from low-income backgrounds and helping them get funding versus just saying that it's a gender problem, because it's really more of an income problem, if that makes sense. So women who are coming from wealthy families, I feel like they have more opportunities, and there's similar opportunities to men who come from wealthy families. There's more of a difference between, someone from a wealthy or a poor family. So, I guess that's, for me, it's less of a just get rid of gender roles and and look at it more of a socioeconomic difference versus a gender difference.
Completely agree with you, and nothing else to say. I think that we need that. We just to consider each other as people, and things will come after that. I know I follow you on Twitter not because you're a woman. I follow you on Twitter because I like what you say, I like what you do. I think you are very powerful in your message. You're a very strong person. You're very, I don't remember the English word for that, but you are kind of motivating because you have high energy inside. So that's also, I think that we need people like you also, because you are a positive woman example, not because you say every day I'm a woman, because of what you say, because of what you do, people can take you as a role, and that's what we need, I think, in VR to also take more women inside.
Thank you. Yeah, to me, I have nightmares of people giving me opportunities because I'm a pretty girl. I don't want the opportunity because I'm a girl, or because I'm pretty, or because of, whatever. I want the opportunity because I earned it. And I want every day to wake up and have people respect me for what I've done and who I am, and not because, I have boobs or whatever, but my back. To me, that's like the worst. I feel like it's so degrading to be told. It's equally as degrading to be told, oh, well, here's an opportunity because you're a woman. That's as degrading to me as somebody saying, oh, you can't have this opportunity because you're a woman. Both times it's because I'm a woman. I don't want that to have anything to do with it. I am who I am. I'm really good at what I do, and that should speak for itself. And I shouldn't get special treatment on either side of that. I shouldn't get beneficial treatment or negative treatment. I should just be able, I am 100% right there with you. It's like the biggest thing. I constantly feel like, oh, well, the things that I've achieved in life, I haven't achieved them because I'm good. I feel like people just take interviews with me or talk to me because I'm a girl, and it's like, it messes with my head sometimes. I'm like, did I really earn it, or is it just because people want to talk to me because I'm a woman? So I'm glad to hear it. It's really awesome to hear that you follow me, not because of that, but because you like what I have to say, you like who I am as a person and what I've done. That just, thank you. That really makes me feel good.
It was all deserved. I really appreciate what you do. Continue like that. And since you're so role model, what can we do to make VR more attractive for people, in your opinion? So not only for women, but in general, because VR and VR are a bit struggling at the moment.
Yeah.
We all believe in that, but at the moment it's hard. So what do we need, in your opinion?
To make AR and VR more, I guess, accessible, do you mean like as an industry for people coming into it, or as a product for people to consume?
Both of them.
Okay. So I think for an industry, for engineers and for designers and people coming into this industry, we can make it more attractive by being less gear focused, I think, and less sort of technical about the hardware, and focus more broadly on the vision, right? Of like creating this new digital world and empowering everybody to have a voice in that, because we all have like different backgrounds and, different passions and different strengths and weaknesses. And I think if we focus more on this collective vision that we all have of building this new digital world, then I think it makes it more accessible to people entering it. When you have these groups of people that are super hyper technical about breaking down stuff and talking about specs and talking about hardware and performance, you sometimes freak people out because it's so technical, and they're like, oh, I don't have anything to say about that, or what if I say something wrong? And so it sort of excludes them and makes it seem a little bit more cliquey. But I think we just need to focus more on this collective vision that we all have and encourage everybody to give their voice and to lend their help in building this future. So that's what I think we should do, from like drawing people into work in this industry. From a consumer standpoint of making this technology attractive to consumers, the very most important thing and something that I'm super passionate about is giving people an understanding of the utility of the hardware. So as of now, a lot of the focus on AR and VR has been on gaming, right? And distribution of content and entertainment. And I really think that people, it's like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not going to spend $200 or $3,000 to buy a headset just to like play a game, right? I'll go to an arcade to do that. So if we really want people to buy this hardware, we need to have it solve a real problem for them. We need to have it prove out the utility and make people understand that having this hardware is crucial in the sense that it solves a problem that no other piece of hardware they have can solve, and it solves that problem better. So if we can find a use case that can do that for a large number of people, for the general public, we'll have adoption through the roof in no time. We as an industry are still sort of finding these use cases and figuring out which of these use cases speak the most to consumers. But once we find that, everything is, the challenge is done. The secret is unlocked, and I feel like that's the moment where we have this sort of completely astronomical takeoff of AR and VR technology.
We're all waiting that, so it's a long way. Well, while I was looking for material for this interview, I found that you've traveled a lot in the world. There are some websites that said that you've also been in like 60 countries. So what's your favorite country and why?
Yeah, so actually I need to update that. I think it's my blog. I've actually been to 75 different countries now.
Wow.
So, yes, I love to travel. It's the biggest. I get the biggest inspiration from it. My favorite country, that's a hard one. I think it's either Hong Kong or, which I guess that's a special administrative region, so I don't know if that's a country, or India. I actually love the country of India. So.
And why?
Why? So I guess for both of them, for India, I love the how do I put this? I love the visceralness of the life that they lead. So everything is just sort of like real and raw. There's no sort of abstracting away from like the harder aspects of life. When somebody dies, they put the body out in the open and they burn it. And it's like, I feel like in our modern culture, when somebody passes, everybody they fill them with wax and they try to make them look pretty and they put them in this box and everything's clean and it's sanitized. And, I just feel like we're not tapping into like that true, messy, vital aspect of what makes us human. And I feel like in the Indian culture, they do, and they allow for that. And they consider that to be normal, and the expression of emotion and passion is there. And it's not considered weird or crazy, or, people can scream and they can express their grief. And I don't know, I feel like I love their culture. I love that, everything there is very real, and I love the people. I love the food. I love Bollywood movies. I'm definitely not one of those people that sort of like fetishizes the culture, because I know that there are that. But I really do have a deep appreciation for the Indian culture, the Hindu religion, the mixture of different religions that exist within one country. That's also really exciting, and I love the different, sort of melting pot that is. I also love that they have their own culture, right? So a lot of times you go to another country internationally as an American and you hear American music, you hear Rihanna, you hear Katy Perry, you go to the movie theaters, all of the movies are from Hollywood. But I loved when I went to India, it's like I hear Indian movies. There's a whole culture of unique and distinct India. I thought that was great. And then for Hong Kong, I love the entrepreneurship. Like everywhere you go, there's like little shops everywhere. You know, you go down an alleyway and there's like a little hidden flower shop, or, you know, people setting up these little carts selling, you know, water and magazines and fish flip-flops even. I appreciate the entrepreneurship of the Chinese people and their drive in every situation to make the best of it and to, you know, capitalize in every way that they can. So I love that about Hong Kong. And again, I also love the melding pot of different cultures and different countries all coming together and living within this really dense metropolitan area. So yeah, those are my two favorite places.
That's amazing. I've never been to Hong Kong. I've been in Shenzhen, that is so close, but I've never been in Hong Kong, so maybe next time. So since you visited all these countries, just talking about XR again, what differences in the various XR ecosystems have you found in the world?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What are the differences of the various XR ecosystems that you have found in the countries that you visited lately?
So the difference in value systems between America and those countries?
Between the various immersive realities ecosystems, so the perception of the technology, the adoption, whatever. So before 2012, there was no VR for consumers, but after that.
Yeah, so it's funny, in Asia, they're much more open to AR and VR, I feel like. They're further ahead of us in terms of offering that as like a gaming solution, or not a solution, I mean gaming isn't some solution, but offering that in gaming arcades. They have those all over the place, and actually there is a BadVR gaming arcade in South Korea. I've been there, I saw it. Wow. After I founded the company, by the way, not before.
You should sue them. This is how you become rich, to make your special women fund. Just suing the arcades in Korea.
The ends justify the means, I guess. But yeah, so I feel like Asian culture is they're more easily embracing of new technologies and less skeptical about them, and more forward thinking in general. And I mean, you can see that reflected in all sorts of parts of their culture. You know, when you go to China and it's like, you know, you have WeChat and WePay and all of these different, and then you have Line that's in like Japan and, you know, and some other Asian countries, and they just really embrace that because a lot of their existing technology infrastructures are not so good, so they have to work around really poor infrastructure, whereas here in America we have really solid, relatively solid infrastructure, so we're not used to having to embrace new technologies to work around these different issues. And, you know, I think that because of these cultural differences, Asian countries, you go there and, you know, you see all of this new crazy stuff, and VR and AR is one of those things. You see arcades, you see people, you know, talking into their phones and using like voice to text commands and, you know, using mobile payment systems way before you start seeing that used commonly here in America. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting. And when I was in Hong Kong recently, just was walking down the streets and seeing all of these different AR, VR arcades and people's interest in that and they, you know, curiosity about it. I haven't seen a ton of business use of AR and VR technology in Asian countries. I mean, maybe in some factories and stuff. I know that there's a lot of hype and culturally and them talking about it. I haven't seen it in use, but I also have not been to a ton of factories, so that may have something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, I just think in general, culturally speaking, they're just a lot more, there's a lot less sort of like what I like to call like sort of skepticism, or this like sort of snooty skepticism about AR and VR that I find in America. I was like, well, oh, that's already done, or oh, that's over, you know? And it's like, before you start writing off an entire technology, why don't you think about that? But I just feel like there's been this like knee-jerk reaction in the tech community in America of like, oh, AR and VR is a joke. Oh, it's all just for gaming. And people just have this herd mentality of like dismissing it because their friends dismissed it, because their friends dismissed it. And this is like herd mentality of stupid, self-perpetuating myths about this technology before it's even given a chance. So luckily that's not a thing in Asia, and I appreciate that. And I hope that it becomes not a thing in America sometime in the near future too.
I hope that as well. Then another thing that I've read is that you are an artist, you like poetry. So have you written some poems lately? Can you tell one to us?
I actually have not had some time to write poems lately. The last poem that I wrote when I was in Budapest, and that was I want to say like 4 years ago, unfortunately. I've written a lot of, non-poetic, non-creative pieces about, technology and what have you. I published one recently about why use VR for data visualization and analytics. But from a creative side, I guess the most creative thing that I've written recently is I wrote a short film about an old lady who, she lives in a nursing home and her only friend is a Furby. Do you remember those little creatures, those fuzzy little creatures that are robotic and their eyes open and close and they go, meow, meow, meow. Do you remember that? Furby? So this movie that I wrote, is about that, about an old woman named Agnes Marshall, who is best friends with a Furby, and she goes on adventures from her nursing home with her little Furby. So I did write that about, 5 months ago, and it's like about a 15-minute short film. Someday when I have the time and the extra money, I'll film it. There are some sort of lines of dialogue that I guess could be poetic, but it was inspired by my own grandmother who recently passed. So my grief of that process, I worked through it by creating this piece of art and this short film. And I do that often. So I have, like, on my computer, I probably have like 30 scripts, full feature-length scripts, and maybe 60 or 70 short films that I've written, all of which have never been made. But someday, when I am retired and I have tons of money, I guess I will maybe make them, or maybe not, who knows. I just enjoy writing.
Well, Bollywood is waiting for you for your scripts. You can mix your passion for India and Bollywood with your passion for screenwriting. So you can make something in India about it.
Yes, I have many different all over the place.
Jokes apart, all this interest that seems so distant from technology, because I read that you like astrology, you're very interested in Indian culture, in poetry, movies, traveling. That's something very creative, while technology usually very very rigid. Like, I'm a computer science engineer, they taught us just to be this way. So how do you think that mixing the two can be helpful for the future of VR and is being helpful for your career?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that that's really one of the biggest differentiators between my company and our competitors. They were taught in the same way you were taught from computer science or, data analytics or academic world to think, here's the box, you think within it. And that's how they've always been taught, and that's how they always think, and that's how they continue to think. And they build a product that is within the box. And that's great, for right now. But, my creativity and all of the interests that I've had allow me to think outside of that box. And by thinking outside of that box, I'm able to build products for the future. I'm able to develop an idea of what the future may be that is creative and different enough that, it sets me apart, and it allows, my company to build and develop products that are truly revolutionary, because I don't believe that you have any sort of meaningful disruption or innovation within this box, right? It's just self-perpetuating, sort of best practices and standards of today. You have to step outside of that box to disrupt an industry and to truly innovate within an industry. Poetry and art and all of the weird stuff that I'm interested in, I wouldn't be able to innovate in the way that I do. And I think that everyone who's in engineering or any of these sort of sciences or math or any sort of the STEM fields could benefit greatly by stepping outside of that and going into the arts and going in, sort of the more abstract creative science, because it will bring you the ability to innovate in a way and be creative in a way that you would not have been able to do before. And everybody benefits, right? Like they talk about in Buddhism, a middle path, right? So they're on either side, you have extremes. And those are always bad. If you're too logical, that's bad. If you're too, creative and emotional, that's bad. But anytime that you have two extremes, if you go right down the middle, that tends to give you the best results because you're balanced on both sides. So I always strive for that myself. I don't want to be too creative, but I also don't want to be too logical either. I want to find that middle path, and I want to find teammates and to structure a team that balances those two things out. So I don't end up with a product that's a bunch of charts or 3D charts at a virtual desk in VR, which doesn't add any value. But I also don't want a product that's so completely out there and crazy that nobody understands what it is. I want that equal balance where I'm using established, sort of theories, but doing it in a creative, innovative way so that when somebody does my product, it's completely a huge value add to them. Do things, but they're so.
Oh, cool. And what would you advise to someone that wants to take your same route, so become a VR startup?
Well, if you're going to go into competition, don't go into competition against me because I'm very competitive and I'll win. But if you want to step into the role of being a CEO and being a founder, just be really ready to have zero stability in your life. And to really be ready to embrace the chaos and the unexpected, because that's really what is going to rule your life for the next couple years. I think people sometimes underestimate how chaotic and unstable it is to be a founder, and it is to be a CEO of a company. I mean, obviously, if you're a CEO of an established company, that isn't true, but being the CEO of a small startup, you never know what's going to happen. Every day is a new adventure. You constantly have to learn new skills. You have to extend yourself in directions and bend in directions you've never bent before. Income is spotty. You don't know. And for me, I love that chaos and that instability. I really struggle when I have to be within a structured environment, like a 9-to-5 job. I have struggled so hard with that. I don't handle structured environments at all. So for me, I thrive in this chaos, but I know that a lot of people do find it stressful. They don't know, the stress of not knowing when the next paycheck's going to come, or if you're going to make it, or if, you're going to be able to raise the money, and maybe your business is going to fail, and, you need a miracle, and you have to sort of have this trust in something greater than yourself that's going to help you out. A lot of people just struggle with that. So I would just say to anybody who wants to try this or who wants to do it, just get ready. Maybe spend some time freelancing or spend some time working within an unstructured environment. You're not going to have to depend on a structure to help you get through, so you can become familiar with that. And, plan your finances accordingly. Get a year or 2 years worth of pay in the bank so you are not going to financially ruin yourself in this process. Make sure you start from a place of stability so that you can withstand the ups and the downs. And beyond that, just be true to yourself. And, it's not worth the struggle to live somebody else's vision, right? So if you're gonna go through this process and this sometimes hell of being a founder, don't do it for anybody else's vision but your own. It's not worth it. So make sure you're living your own truth and living your own vision and living your own dreams. That's my advice.
That's nice. So what about your future and the future of BadVR? What do you see in the coming times?
Yeah, so BadVR's future definitely is looking bright. We're going to be raising another round at the beginning of next year. We're going to have a big product release early next year as well, or middle of next year, sorry. So that's definitely coming up. Like I said, we have a release of C Signal this summer, which is super exciting. I can't wait for everybody to sort of get a little taste of what we've been working on. I think that, as we continue to grow, you'll see some really exciting innovation coming out of the team that we have put together. I've been very honored and lucky to recruit some amazing people. And I think that what we've been doing, we've been a little secretive and closed about it in the past because of patents and making sure that we have all of this stuff from an IP level protected, because it is truly innovative and it is going to really shake up the industry, and we want to make sure that, you know, people aren't going to steal it from us. So once we have all of that in place, I look forward to being more public about what we're doing and giving everybody a glimpse of this cool stuff that we have. And then I think, you know, obviously in the next couple of years, we're going to continue to grow. You'll see some amazing enterprise use cases and stories coming out of, you know, the work that we're currently doing with some really large companies. We'll continue to have more of these use cases and hone in on that, and potentially partner with some government agencies here in America, specifically with, like, say, C-Signal. Yeah, and I think that that's going to continue to grow the company. You'll see some cool stuff, and, you know, eventually one day I'll be like on the cover of Fortune magazine, talking about, you know, all of my travels and all the cool stuff that I've done. And I'll have my charity, or not my charity, I'll have my own fund, and I will fund a bunch of companies of weirdo people that don't fit in like myself. Yeah, so I think that's really what the future holds for us. And, you know, you never know what may happen, but I hope I hope and I believe that that's the path that we will take.
Well, I really wish you that this will happen, also because I hope to get some money from your charity. So good luck with that. I will try to support you as much as I can, of course. And so we are at the end of this interview. There's something else that you want to add to my readers, to my viewers. So you are free to speak.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if I could say anything. I just want to thank everybody on Twitter who's been so supportive of what we've been doing. And, you know, I guess I apologize for not having more public stuff to share about what we've been doing at BadVR. You will have to trust me, audience, when I say soon we will show all of this. We just have to get these patents filed and in place. We have a lot of them done. There's still some that are pending. So, you know, think about it in the same way that you thought about Magic Leap. You didn't see a lot of stuff from them. You didn't see a lot of stuff from them when they released something that was really awesome. It'll be the same way for us. So thank you for giving me the benefit of the doubt, despite, you know, the company being a little obtuse and mysterious about things. You know, and I just really am thankful that everybody's given me such a warm welcome in this community, that everybody's been so kind, and especially, you know, like you, Tony, you've reached out to me and doing this interview and chatted with me on Twitter. You know, I just really feel like everybody's been so welcoming, and that's been amazing. And, you know, I'm thankful that you guys see me as a cool person and a good personality, and, you know, I don't feel like anybody's pandering to me because I'm a girl or anything like that. I feel like an equal. So I love the community and I love the people, and I'm just really thankful that I'm here and I get this opportunity, and I hope to do really cool things for the industry, and I hope to fund your business later on, Tony, when I can. And I want anybody to be able to reach out to me at any time. If you ever have a question, I don't bite, and I love to chat with people and I love to connect with people. So I guess that's all that I have to say.
That's amazing. So good luck for your future, Suzanne. Thanks for your time, and thanks everyone watching these interviews. So if you have questions, whatever, just ask in the comments to the article or the video. Just contact Suzanne Borders on Twitter. So see you in next video.
Bye. Thank you for listening.